right, well, let's go ahead and get started. If a few more people drop in, that's no big deal. Just kind of be doing the intro here for a couple minutes and then get into the meat and potatoes in about 10 minutes, so it'll be good. So I just want to welcome everybody to the JSM Fundamentals webinar with Expium. My name is Owen Pyatt, and I'm one of Expium's Atlassian consultants. Today we're going to be walking through JSM to highlight some of its strengths and capabilities. I do just want to let you know that we have an ITSM webinar coming up later today that talks more in depth about IT service management and how Jira handles those features. You can sign up for that the same way that you did for this webinar, and we'll post the link in the chat. But I do understand normally the fundamentals and the ITSM webinar are about a week and a half apart. Today they're on the same day. I do understand that not everybody has the ability to devote 2 hours out of their workday to learn about JSM and how it handles things. So if you're not able to attend the ITSM webinar, please feel free to jump over to our YouTube channel. I'll have Kylie, our moderator, drop that link in the chat as well, because you'll find a host of information, not only just the ITSM webinar, but a lot more. We have a lot of content on our YouTube channel. All right, so yeah, let's get going here. So Jira Service Management as a tool, what is it and who is it for? Most people are at least familiar with Jira when they find themselves in this class, which is Atlassian's core issue tracking management tool. Essentially, JSM has Jira's well-known issue management functionality, but it's rolled up into a service and support management tool. This allows for more advanced ticketing for internal as well as external customers, and it ultimately provides them with a service. Before we really start talking about the functionality and features of JSM, I want to spend some time talking about the questions we often get surrounding who it's really for. Really, a lot of teams are service teams without even realizing it. They are providing a service to either internal or external customers, and often there are a lot of channels of intake. Those can include email, phone calls, and even someone passing you in the hallway asking you to do something for them. The problem with this is that there is no clear prioritization or tracking when you are receiving requests in this manner. Because these requests are made so vague, there's no visibility for the requester that would let them know when their request will be handled. As I'm sure we all know, this can lead to the requester bothering you for updates or going to your boss and asking when their request will be handled. And we obviously do not want that. There is a solution for this though. The solution at a high level is a service desk that has a generic intake form, which will keep requesters up to date on where their request is in the process, or in other words, what status it's in, and when it could potentially be resolved. This is just one example of many pertaining to the who JSM is really for. So now I'll kind of talk a little bit to our slide here. So JSM is able to support and track customer success, kind of aligns with our third bullet point there with SLAs. So you're able to make sure that your agents are working tickets in a timely manner, as well as your customers are getting notified in a timely manner, and issues are being resolved in a timely manner, as well as any other SLA that you'd like to configure or track. And we'll be talking about SLAs pretty in depth here throughout the demo. You'll be able to connect internal and external knowledge bases. Confluence is a really common tool. Not sure if any of you guys use Confluence, but you will be able to seamlessly link Confluence and knowledge base articles to specific request types. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier before everybody was on the call, but there is a cool new feature called Help Topics. That's one more integrated piece to help use Confluence to deflect and resolve issues. So we'll be able to prioritize and manage requests with the use of queues and auto assignments and automation from Jira. Kind of leads to our last point. And then clean and highly customizable customer portal. And then our last bullet here, automate repetitive tasks with the use of automation for Jira. And what is really great about all of these things is that they're all included at any tier of Jira Service Management, which is really, really cool. So as a little bit of a teaser for our ITSM webinar that's coming up later today, here are a few features that we actually won't be going over today. So if this is why you showed up, maybe just know that the ITSM webinar may be a better fit. We're going to be talking about more of the foundational uses of JSM, obviously the fundamentals of JSM, but some of the things that'll be mentioned in our ITSM webinar are advanced incident management powered by Opsgenie, as well as, well, here we go, increased change management capabilities, integrations geared towards supporting DevOps, and then inside asset management. So you're really going to get the whole host of how JSM handles the IT service management infrastructure of problem management, change management, incident management, and service request management. And now customer service management, that actually just got released this week. I uploaded a kind of a high level overview of the new customer service management tool within Jira. I don't know if that'll be covered in the ITSM webinar because it just got released last week. So a little bit here about Expium. We offer a whole host of services. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here in my notes. Yeah, we provide in-depth training sessions like this webinar, for example, but we also offer what we call a Jira boot camp. This is a 3-day deep dive into Jira, which trains you to be a Jira administrator. We do Confluence training as well, and we also now offer a Jira Service Management Bootcamp, which I'll post the link for in the chat momentarily. Lastly, we offer user academies, which are more geared towards people who are going to be using the tool on a daily basis, but aren't necessarily administering it. We offer consulting across the entire Atlassian suite of products for a wide range of organizations, both large and small. Concerning the solutions we provide, it's important to note that our parent company, Oasis Digital, is a full stack software development company that creates custom software to where we can offer innovative solutions that integrate seamlessly with Jira. That includes the development of apps, custom integrations using the API, and we've gone as far as building custom front ends for Atlassian products. We very rarely say something is impossible. We may say it's impossible out of the box or native to Jira, but if you're working with Expium, very rarely say something is not possible to achieve. It just may involve some custom scripting. Before we do move on into the demo, I forgot to mention we have a Q&A chat box here at the bottom of your screen. So if any questions do come up, feel free to throw some questions in there. We'll save some time at the end to go over everything. All right. So let's dive into the tool. All right. So here we are at our Help Center, otherwise known as the Portal of Portals. The Help Center is the starting landing page for any customer of your service project. So what we're looking at right now, starting from the top, we have our smart search bar. I'm going to talk more in depth about these in a second, but I'm just going to kind of preface what we're seeing here right now. So we have our smart search bar, which allows us to search the knowledge base articles as well as request types. Then we have, this is brand new. Some of you that are moderately familiar with JSM may be like, what is this new box? So this is actually our brand new feature called Help Topics. I actually just uploaded a video on YouTube as well, kind of a deep dive into the configuration of Help Topics, but I'll circle back there in just a minute. And then we have our individual portal offerings. And for those of you that do have a knowledge and background in Jira, what these actually are service projects. So this is how the projects are actually displayed out on the portal. So obviously these follow their own customer permissions. So you can limit just people that are added to the project to be able to view them, or you can open them up to anybody on the web. So let's circle back to help topics, because this is really as in-depth as we'll get in help topics today, because these did just get released and we have a lot to cover. So let's kind of dive into a help topic, and I'll kind of explain the reason they're here and how to use them, but maybe not how to configure them. So what a help topic is a way to help your end user resolve their issue faster. It's a big help for companies with a extremely extremely built out service desk with possibly hundreds of request types. So what it actually is a grouping of request types, knowledge base articles, as well as external links. We actually don't have any external links on our demo help topic here, but you can direct people to web pages. So it's really cool. Kind of some general use cases would be like ours here, self-help. So just kind of similar along the lines of an FAQ. If you're seeing a lot of people search for certain things, or that maybe a new user, a new employee is going to have a hard time maneuvering around in your service desk, you can have a new employee help topic that says, get with HR employee. You can link your employee handbook. You can link to some external links that would help them get set up, like setting up a 401k or whatever it is. You could have that all live under the help topic, and they are linked. I don't want to spend too much time here, but they are not that help topics don't deserve it. I just want to get moving. But they do follow a project permission. So this is linked to a project. So if your project has certain permissions, viewership permissions, this help topic can disappear. So not everybody can see that. I know it's a little bit confusing because it is on the on the Help Center, which is you would think it would be associated there under our individual portal offering, but it is here on the Help Center. So just eliminating as many clicks as possible gets our users exactly what they need as fast as we can provide for them. So now let's circle all the way back up to our smart search bar. A lot of people don't realize how smart the smart search bar actually is. But if I was to type hardware, we'd kind of see our assorted requests that are associated with hardware and that kind of keyword. But as we see here, it is just request types. But then if I were to search VPN, we'd see that we are also prompted with a few knowledge base articles. And these are linked back on our back on our project through our individual request type. So we can link specific articles to specific request types, as well as it'll pull for keywords. So if I was to hop in here, we'd see, this is just all a picture of a cat. And there used to be, I don't know if I noticed this morning getting ready, there used to be a button that said, was this article helpful or not? And that's not here. So I don't know if there was an update that I'm not aware about yet, but I'm not seeing that button. But there was a button here that said yes or no, was this article helpful? And what that would do is on the back end, it would give us access to a report that gave us a request deflected number and would help us understand how helpful our knowledge base articles actually were. So now we'll go back to the Help Center once more, and let's go into one of our individual portal offerings. And I'll kind of explain a little bit of the hierarchical setup or the breadcrumb trail here for our service desk. So we have our Help Center, and our breadcrumb trail will help tell the story. So we have our Help Center, which is the portal of portals. And then now I'm here in our individual portal offering. And then now I'm prompted with our portal groups. So portal groups are not groups of portals. They're groups of request types. So here we see a computer. So this is, and then below that is every request type that's associated with computers, and that's manually built. That's not pulling it. There's no smart function going on there. That's manually configured on the back end. And then we have our logins and accounts portal group with all those request types. Then we have our applications portal group with those 3 request types. And then we've got our servers and infrastructure portal group with those request types. Something to note about portal groups, this description text, although it looks like description text, it's actually not. It's just a typed list of the request types within, and it is not editable. So it is just a breakdown of what request types actually live within the portal group. So let's go into our computers request type here, or sorry, portal group to see our list of request types. And then we'll go in and we'll request a new laptop. So here is our form-based experience. So we see here, we're able to kind of jump back through our, say, oh, I selected the wrong portal group. We'd be able to jump to another one. And then we'd also be able to jump to a different request type if needed, instead of actually going back. So we see our form-based experience here. So reason for requesting a laptop, we have our drop-down capability, our drop-down field here. So current equipment is damaged. You know, I spilled coffee on my laptop. And then we have our full wiki style rendered text box here. So we're able to change the color, bold, italicize, add links, upload files, as well as upload code snippets, and mention other users as well. So I could pull Sam. Oh, well, that's just his Gmail. I'm not sure, but we could pull Wade in here, and you know, you can comment, and we'll be able to share tickets with users a different way too. But you are able to mention there in this is just a paragraph field rendered as a wiki style renderer, so which is configured on the field configuration scheme. So then down here we have what seems to be just a regular drop down field, but you may be noticing that some of these options have a small logo next to them, or small you know, image next to them. And the reason is this is actually pulling from our asset management database, which is assets, which is included under the premium JSM subscription. But what that's actually doing is this field's actually tied to our asset management database. And so whenever I select one of these, so say I select MacBook Pro 13-inch, this issue then gets approved, it will automatically set this MacBook as a attribute to my user's profile on our asset management database. So some cool functionality there. Wade will go much more in depth into assets during the ITSM webinar, which is later today. So we'll go ahead and submit that request, and then we'll kind of talk through some of the things that we're seeing right here. So at the top, we see our help center, our little breadcrumb trail, IT service desk, and then we do see our issue ID, our issue key here. And so that's actually a link back to the back end of Jira, which I will click on in about 5 or 10 minutes after I'm done talking about everything we're seeing here. But if a user who submits a request does not have the ability to access your backend, if they're just listed as a customer, not as a team member, that link is actually deadened, and it is not clickable. So it's only accessible if you have access to the back end of Jira. So here in this kind of first box, this is everything that was displayed on the request type. So basically our form, whether it be a request form or what I call a dynamic form, what others may call a pro forma form, or what others may call a form. It's kind of hard to delineate what you're talking about, but there's only 2, request forms and then dynamic forms, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But it'll be presented here in this kind of first box. So we see our reason, you know, our additional details, spilled coffee, we looped Wade in. I tend to do that on just about everything. And then we see our model MacBook here. So then below that, we see that we see a small log of all the comments that have been associated to this request. So we'd be able to add a comment, and this will route on the back end and be added as a comment, obviously. But it was decaf. And then let's move over to the right side of our screen here. We see our comment was logged there. So we see our status, and then we see our waiting for approval status. Now, some of you may be seeing that and being like, well, I don't know if I want to notify my customer of the exact status that the issue is actually in. That's a little bit too much clarity for our end user. What I typically advise people to do, is stick to the status categories. And before I say that, what I meant to say first was these are editable. So you're able to control what status that's actually in Jira is actually displaying on the portal. So, on the back end associated to our workflow, maybe waiting for approval. But on the customer portal, we could have it just say to do. So I tend to advise people to follow the status category breakdown of to do, in progress, or done. Other people like to completely show exactly what stage of the process the ticket's in. Totally up to you. Just want to make you aware that it is editable. Just below that, we'll be able to turn our notifications on or off. So say we want to send it and forget it, then we'd go ahead and turn those off. But if we want to stay notified, stay up to date, we'd obviously leave our notifications on. Just below that, we have our option to cancel the request. Say it was maybe a mistake or it got resolved. And then we see our request type was logged. For someone who's just a customer, that's not going to mean much to them, but that will then translate to the back end as we go there in just a minute. And then right below that, we see that Wade was actually added as a shared with because I mentioned him in the original comment up here. So that's kind of cool. He can handle his own notifications as well associated to this ticket. And then we can also share with others as well. It can be just an email address or someone within the organization, and that's configured in the project settings. And then we see here that this ticket actually does need approval before it can be transitioned. So there is some clarity there once again for the end user. So let's go ahead and follow our link, and we'll head in to our agent, the agent side of Jira, and specifically Jira Service Management. But if you are familiar with Jira software, you're going to see a lot of similarities between the two. There are some differences though as well. All right. So as we see up here at the top of our screen, we see our issue ID once again. You're able to grab that link and drop it in an email and a chat. There's a new smart link feature in JSM, so you can just start typing ITSD-499 and it'll start to know what you're talking about. Then we've got our summary, which was logged, new laptop request. I believe that this may have been auto set and hidden from portal, which is a feature we can talk about in a little bit because I don't remember typing that. But yeah, super cool function there. If you want to be the ones setting the value of any field, not just the summary, you can set the default value and hide it from the portal to kind of add some control to things. So I guess we'll kind of talk down this part here, and then we'll move over to our sidebar over there. So as an agent, I'm able to create a subtask, new subtask, maybe, order more coffee, because I've been spilling it all. You're able to also link the issue. So you're able to either create a new linked issue or link it to an existing issue, which is really cool. Do that here. So you're able to see our link type. This is a customizable list. It's configured on the global settings of Jira. I do want to preface, these don't actually do anything. It's just text. So I learned that the hard way. Blocks do not block. It just simply lets someone know of what link type it actually is. But they do not do anything. So our block, if I were to say blocks and then select, mouse needed, that wouldn't actually block the issue from being completed. So I'll go ahead and remove that link. We see our subtasks. We're able to create multiple subtasks from this screen. We're able to click right in there and just like Jira software, head in and configure our subtask that way. If this wants to load. And then you're also able to add the approver here from right on the screen as well. All right, so moving down, we see our activity log. So what's really cool and a little bit different about JSM, you may not have noticed it yet, is we see this button here, add internal note or just reply to the customer. So that's pretty cool and definitely unique about JSM is you're able to add a comment that is either sent out to the customer or is just logged to other internal agents. Customer note, and then if I wanted to add an internal note, we'd be able to do so here, and we're also reminded that it's an internal note with this nice yellow highlight. And then we see our history of the ticket, so we see who created it, just some general audit log here to maintain visibility through and through. We have our work log if you do choose to track the work on a ticket, time and status, and then the approval steps here. And then all, which would be everything. So, all right, well, let's move up to the top right part of our screen here. So we see these like to hide. It's kind of hard to see some of these buttons up here sometimes. So we have our watch option. So this is actually where you would go to watch an issue. And you can also add watchers. So if you say, my colleague Kylie, she raised a request that I'm curious about, and she chatted me and said, hey, you should watch this issue. She could send me the link, I could go there and I could watch the issue and just maintain. That would mean I would start to get notifications upon updates to the ticket. I'm able to like a comment. So maybe Kylie submitted a request for more cake or cake on Fridays, and I'd say, awesome, I'm gonna give that a like. And then we'd also be able to share the ticket from here, and then also be able to move, clone, delete some of those other features from our ellipses there in the top right. Like I said, not going to spend a ton of time on these guys up here, but they are a little bit hidden, and just want to bring awareness to them. All right, so next we'll go to another unique and cool feature of JSM, which is our approval step. So I'm going to go, as we see, it is waiting for approval. So I'm going to go into our, I'm going to follow that needs an approver, and I'm going to go ahead and add myself here. Then I'm going to go back, and we're going to see that I'm prompted with this approve or decline. So, and then we'll get to see some automation for Jira work. Really quickly, I want to talk about how the approval step is actually configured. It is a little bit tricky, and if some of you guys are here and you're wanting to take some of this info back and configure on your own, that's awesome. I do want to just speak to the approval step a little bit, because it is a little bit different than, well, it is totally unique to JSM, and it's kind of hard to get to a good starting spot, because the workflow has to be associated to a service project before you can actually configure the approval step. So if you've been, that may be the only reason you're in the webinar. If you've been trying to configure the approval step and you're like, I don't even know where to begin, that is where you begin. So you have to associate your workflow to a service project and then select the status that you want the approval step to live on, and then you'll be prompted with a new button that only appears when you follow those first two steps that says edit approval step. And that's where you'll actually begin editing the approval step. You'll be able to set how many approvers the ticket needs at that stage. You'll be able to set what group or what field the approvers are actually pulling from. So you could have a custom field that is associated as the approvers, or you could have the approvers field, which is the system field that's associated to the approval step. One more thing I'd like to note, the approval step's just a little bit finicky. So the one more thing I'd like to note for you guys that do want to build these out on your own is if you do configure a custom field to associate to the approval step, it has to be a multi-group group picker. It can't be a single group picker. I don't know why, but it has to be a multi-group group picker, and then you'll set the, this is a little bit nitty gritty, but I know this is a really important feature, so I want to spend some time on it. You'll actually set the default value as the group that you'd like. So let's go ahead and just take a look at our workflow as a whole here. And at the end, I know I just talked to that a lot, but at the end we can take some time if people are interested, and I can kind of talk through the approval step a little bit more and kind of demo how to configure that. So here's our overall workflow. We kind of see it's a kind of a difficult process to get down here to resolved, but what we do see is our waiting for approval step, if approved, will then automatically go to waiting for support. And if it's denied, it will automatically go all the way to resolved. So we will go ahead and hit approve. And then we'll give it a second, and we'll see that it's one of the few times with Jira you don't have to refresh. It will recache on its own. So there we see that it did move to waiting for support on its own there. So some cool features there with the approval step. Moving over right to the right, we see our actions button. And I have been getting a prompt here that I think they're going to be getting rid of this rule execution down here and having everything live under actions. But as for right now, this is where you would go to manually trigger an automation that's associated to the project or the issue type or the request type. So if there is an automation with a manual trigger that is associated to the issue that you're on in some way, this is where you would go to click the actual manual trigger. Just below that, we have our SLAs. So we're still within our SLA window for time to first response, and then we're also still within our time frame of time to resolution with our 8-hour window. So then as we continue, and we'll do a deep dive here in SLAs in just a bit on how to configure those. So as we see down here, we see our assignee. We're able to pick anyone that's associated to the project here, or just assigned to me. We see the reporter came through, but let's say that wasn't actually the right person, so you can go in here and edit that. And the reporter is who raised the request. That's not necessarily something that you would just guess that meant, but that does mean who raised the request. Below that, we see the request type, and say you're manning the queue, and you realize that someone raised this request and it's actually the incorrect request type. You could just come in here without contacting the customer and letting them know all about it. You could just come in here and swap it out for them, kick it over to that other queue, and let somebody else deal with it. Or you could do that just because you didn't want to do it. Then we have our organizations, so you can build out organizations within JSM that house different customers, and that has actually just gained a lot of functionality with our new customer service management update. You can, excuse me, you can actually give organizations attributes, details. You can give them details called organization details that can help you better manage your customer base. All right, so then we see the 2 knowledge base articles that are associated to this request type. So maybe your your agent needs some help in resolving this, or maybe it's an incident and you want to go see some common workarounds that have been developed for this or found for this specific incident. Could be that could all be logged in your knowledge base, so you could direct your agents to some knowledge base articles, help them resolve the issues even quicker. Then we see our default language here. You can add languages to, you can have your whole site translated to a different language. So you could select that there. We can select a component specific to this request. Once again, to reiterate, components are project specific. So if you're looking for a component and you're not able to find it, it may be because you didn't realize that they were just project specific. So components are not global. So you may have to create a new component, or you may find the one you need. And then we see our priority list. So our priority list actually is a system field, and it is configurable and editable, but everything is displayed all the time. So, you know, say you go in and create 5 new priorities, all the teams are going to see those priorities. What I tend to do for customers, it seems to be the most common, is actually to create some sort of a priority matrix, which is probably the coolest term of anything that I do on a day-to-day. But the priority matrix will allow you to, you know, set your priority based on impact and urgency. Also, a lot of times, you know, you may not want to present the priority field to the customer, because as we all know, they would all say urgent. And so if we do build out the priority matrix, we can use automation for Jira to kind of map, you know, A plus 1 equals 2, but B plus 1 equals 3, something like that. So, and then we see here request participants. We see that Wade has been added, and you may be asking yourself, why is Wade there? Well, that's because if you remember to our ticket submission, he was actually saved as a shared with member. So remember on the portal end, it's called share with. On the back end, it's actually called a request participant. So that's kind of how those fields are talking. And then right here, we've got automation and rule executions. This is actually a really useful field because we're actually able to go in and see all of the rules that ran for this specific request. So if you're expecting to see, you know, a field populated with some value and it's not, or you're meaning to, well, that was pretty much encompassed everything. But if you're meaning to see something and you're not, or you're anticipating an outcome and you're not seeing that outcome, you can come directly to the rule executions. And first, you can even see if it's correctly scoped. So if it's even listed here, and then also you'd be able to see if it ran correctly or not. So really useful field there for automation or for rule executions. And then that pretty much does it for what we'll talk about here on the project sidebar. I do want to pick up the pace here a little bit because I do want to hit on some other things. So let's go back to our project and let's go and look at request types. So our request types are actually what is being presented on the portal. What's cool about request types are they allow us one more chain in the breakdown of issue types. So as we see here, we see our issue types, then our request type. And you may have to write this down because it's a little bit wordy. You don't actually have to, but you can have multiple request types for one issue type, but you cannot have multiple issue types for one request type. So the reason for that is it's a lot more common to have 150 request types that all follow at least 3 or 4 workflows rather than 150 workflows. So what's really cool is, you know, all of our service requests follow pretty much the same, well, they follow the exact same workflow. We don't need to build a specific issue type and all of the other assorted schema for every single request type. So that's actually how you link a request type to a workflow and all the other assorted schema. And just under right away on our create request type button up here, we see our name. We'd be able to name our request type. We'd be able to pick from an assortment of icons. You can also upload a photo if you have your own. I think they're called favicons. I don't know. I've heard of a bunch. We'll just stick with icons. If you have your own list of icons, then you can go ahead and upload them there. And then just below that, we see that this is where we actually assign to an issue type. So, and this is an ITSM template. So we do have all of our features turned on. So we have our incidents that are following possibly a different workflow. We have our problems. We have our changes. And then we have our PIRs, our post-incident reviews. And then also really common to see tasks still available as an issue type, because that could be for your internal people that are just raising requests that aren't necessarily a request type. So a lot of options there. We are almost running out of time. So here's our request form. So this is actually where we go to build out our request form. So we have a form-based experience out on the portal. This is actually where we come to configure that. Well, it's one of the places. So I do want to preface here, there's not a lot of functionality with the request form. So the only things that you're actually the only things you're able to do on a request form is display system and custom fields. There's another form building option, which is I call dynamic forms. In Jira, it's actually just called forms. It's kind of hard to talk about without showing you the screen, but they are just called forms. But some of you who have been using Atlassian products for a long time may remember Pro Forma, and that's actually that add-on was actually acquired by Atlassian and is now fully integrated and out of the box on all tiers of JSM, and that has a lot more functionality. So like I said, you're only able to add system and custom fields. So and over here we have our full list of fields. These do have to be added to the project service management screen to be seen over here. So if you're not seeing a field that you think you should be seeing, it's Jira, there's so many layers. This webinar could be 5 hours, but I don't think any of us want that. So these do have to be added to the correct screen. So if you're seeing a custom field or system field that you should be seeing or you think you should be seeing, go check the screen, make sure it's associated to the service management screen, and then you'll be able to drop it on the request form. So as I stated earlier, some cool functionality here. You are able to click this little guy here, use preset value and hide from portal. So say you want all of your fix an account problem requests to have the summary say fix an account problem. That's how you do that there. That way you give your user not even the ability to do that. Or say, you want your approvers to automatically be set to somebody, you can hide that from the form, and then your approver would be automatically set without your, for every fix an account problem or whatever it may be. I think that is it for our request types. Really quick, I do want to let you know of another brand new feature. JSM has really been cranking out a lot of new stuff lately. In the past, you were not able to switch out the workflow. Now you are. So if you click replace workflow under our ellipses there, you're then brought to this new screen. We also have a video on our YouTube about this too. So we have a new JSM updates playlist. So click the notification button on that playlist if you want to stay in the loop for all things JSM. So we see that we're able to select the workflow, and then you're able to change the issue type. But what's kind of confusing, you have to know which workflow is associated to the issue type that you want to change to. So obviously you see that I'm not seeing every single issue type listed here, but if I were to select our change management workflow, and then I'd be able to change to our change management issue type. So kind of backwards. You'd think most people would want to just change the issue type and then select the workflow. I don't know. I think it's a little bit backwards, but I think it's because you can associate multiple issue types to one workflow and only one workflow to one issue type. I think that may be backwards, but I don't know. It seems backwards to my brain, but you do have to know which workflow your desired issue type is associated to. But that was a big time saver, because back in the day, about a month ago, if you needed to change the issue type on a request type, you couldn't. And so you'd have to delete it, and that would make such a mess for reporting, or you'd have to hide it from the portal. If it's not associated to a portal group, that leads me to portal groups. If it's not associated to a portal group, it'll be hidden from portal, like it'll say here, hidden from portal. This is just our email request. So here we see our portal groups. So say you want to, edit a few of your request types that are in the computers portal group. This is where you would come to do it. And then we can also break out our work categories. This is fetching off of our issue type, and it's routed through. And these are the system problem issue types. These are not custom issue types. So when you turn on the features for your JSM project, you turn on all those features, it'll ask you if you want to utilize those standard issue types. And I would advise you to do that. Don't create a custom issue type called change unless you really, really want to. So really quick, let's go to portal settings. So our portal settings are where we are actually going to configure our portal groups. So here we see our portal groups. Remember, our portal groups are groups of requests, not groups of portals. So we could create a group, and then we'd be able to add all those request types that we'd like there. It's a little bit easier on our request types page. You have to do it individually. Here it's a little bit more modular, and you can get a lot more work done a lot faster. Okay, then we'll head to forms. I hope you guys don't feel like I'm jumping around too much. I know I'm going quick, but there's just a lot to get through in just an hour, and JSM's had so many new updates that there's a lot more talking points. So here we have our dynamic forms. Dynamic forms could be their own hour-long video as well, but I just want to let you guys know that it's here. I want to speak to it a little bit, talk a little bit about the functionality. So what's different about request forms than dynamic forms? Dynamic forms are where you're able to display conditional fields, conditional formatting. You're also able to utilize something that's called a form field. So that's a field that's only living on the form. It's going to come through just as text, but you have all these options on which it could be. So let's go ahead and just, add our, well, we would name our form just like so, and then we have our label here, which is actually the title of the form. And then we'd be able to provide a description. I'm just going to call it a few of the really important sidebar options over here. Linked Jira field. If you want to report on anything that lives on the dynamic form, you need to remember that it has to be linked to a custom field or system field. Excuse me. So here we'd see our full list of fields. I would advise you to just search in there and get exactly what you need, and that will switch our field type to whatever the system or custom field that's linked is the source of truth for whatever options and whatever field type is used. Something to note there. So let's go ahead and build out a super quick demo of some conditional formatting. So I'll do a drop down here, and we'll call this form title, and then we'll say form title new, form title old, and then we'll go ahead and select add section. And that is going to allow us to conditionally present certain fields or text. This is all editable. This is a wiki style renderer as well, which is really cool, as our request form is just custom fields and system fields. So then we'd be able to add those conditionally. So we would select form title, and then is any of form title new or form title old. So we'll go ahead and select, hey, I just want to present these options when someone selects form title new, and then anything in here is going to be shown, when someone selects form title new. I'll go ahead and add short text new just as proof. And then up in the top left, we see build, preview, and settings. And now you may notice you only see one field, whereas here we see two. So if I were to select new, I would then be able to prompt my user with a few more options. As if I select old, they wouldn't see anything. So as you can assume, a lot of capabilities there. People are able to build out some really, really useful and really consolidated forms, and it really helps. In a lot of cases, it really helps add a layer to the hierarchy of help center, portal offering, portal group, request type, and then conditional field. It's almost like an added layer there. So really cool. And then really important and really quick, request form. This is the only checklist that you really, really need to know. Click there, toggle that on, request form. Once again, build, preview, settings. This is the form settings, and this is how you actually link the field, the form, to a request type. So then I would select a request type here, and then now that form will live on the portal for our end users. So that is forms, really useful, really capable. Really quick, we're going to head out to our portal, or our home page, and we're going to select queues. So queues are to JSM projects what Kanban boards are and Scrum boards are to Jira software projects. So there are no boards in JSM, there's just queues. And what queues are, well, they can be whatever you want them to be. They're built off of JQL. So a lot of times, a common use case would be you have an owned by team field with your 10 team options. Whenever someone selects, team A, the tickets route to queue for team A. So or 1, 2, 3. So to create a new queue, this would be to edit a queue. To create a new queue, we'll go to manage queues and then create new queue here in the top right. Once we do that, we're going to have to give it a title. And then here we have our JQL line. So you'll really be able to, like I said, you're able to get as creative or as simple as you like. If you hate JQL, you can go ahead and switch on basic, switch to basic. Switch to basic, which will help you if you're not familiar with JQL, Jira query language. You can filter the results based on some more simple drop downs. I even use the basic for time. JQL with time gets a little bit weird. The basic makes it so easy. And I think with some of the new AI, I don't want to speak to it too much, but I believe you're going to be able to free-form type what you want it to do, and the AI bot will be able to translate that to JQL. So some cool things to look forward to as well with AI. All right, so let me see if that's everything with queues. We have a couple more minutes here. I think that was pretty much everything. Well, I'll speak to a couple more things here in queues. So Something to note here, I'm going to discard that. Something to note here, the all my tickets out of the box is actually, the JQL is current user. So just remember that, you know, if you come in here and you get all your columns set up just how you like it, that is affecting everybody. So what I would advise you to do is just create a new key or a new queue, I'm sorry, and have it maybe just with your name. But the all my tickets is a really helpful queue for just everything that's assigned to you. And then all open tickets, another really helpful one. These are all out of the box. And then we have our custom ones down here. And then you are able to star. And this is what is not a global setting. This will just be for you. So the star, if you want to, you know, your team might have, I don't know, 70 queues, and you want to bump up the 5 that you use all the way to the top. That's kind of a good way to configure everything. All right, so I'm going to take a couple minutes here and talk to SLAs, our service level agreements, which is another just JSM feature. So sorry, it keeps refreshing on me. Oh my goodness. All right. So here we have our SLAs. We see time to resolution. One thing I want to note, man, my sidebar's got a mind of its own. One thing I want to note, the no target, the all remaining issues, that's never going to go away. So you can't delete that. If you don't want any SLAs to show up, you would just click edit. And you would just set it to 0 to no target and have no other breakdowns here. And that would have the SLA, it wouldn't appear at all. But sometimes it's confusing because there's no X. So some people are like, how do I get rid of that? You're actually not able to. So once again, our SLAs are built off of JQL. So you, you can get your JQLs as specific as you'd like. You could break it all the way down to every single request type having, which is really common, you know, every single request type having a different SLA condition. And then down here, we'll kind of talk through, well, you'll set your time goals here on the left. And then we'll talk in just a minute about the calendar feature, about how to add a calendar. So we have our I'm so sorry, start counting time when the issue is created. These are all editable, these conditions. And you may be thinking, why is resolution cleared there? Well, a lot of times if someone has a reopen status or reopen transition, they may have a post function that clears the resolution. And so you'd obviously want time to maybe restart then. So all of this is customizable. We'd have our pause counting time during, and then our finish counting time when the resolution is set, obviously for time to resolution. And then here's kind of some interface options. You can kind of select how you'd like it to be presented on the agent side of Jira Service Management. I know that was a ton of information. Like I said, an hour just isn't enough, but I hope it was. I hope it was beneficial. It brings us right to time. If you guys don't mind, I will check out our Q&A really quick about the featured topics. Yes. And Daniel, I will, since we're running out of time, I will have Kylie or myself, I will drop a link below to the video that I just put out. That's a deep dive on help topics and how to configure them. Because I'm glad you asked, because they are a great feature. Either I'll put my email below. Daniel, I'm not sure if Kylie could do that on here on Zoom, or if I'll do that individually. But and then one more question: does the ITSD form have the same outlook for external customer user as the internal user? So yes, Jira doesn't know necessarily the difference between an external user and an internal user. If they go to the portal, they will see, everyone will see the same thing. You can raise a request from within. So if your internal user, they can still use this create button. And then they're able to select the issue type. And then they're also able to select the request type. It's a little bit different of an experience here, but if you see here, use request type fields, it's actually pulling in the same fields. You could toggle that off. I don't know why you would want to do that, because you know, generally I would assume you would want, if the request type is being filled out, you would generally want that information to be pulled in. So I hope that answers your question. But yes, if they go to the portal, everyone's, and they're able to access it, they're gonna see the same thing. Was that helpful? Obiami, I don't know if you're still on the call, but all right, guys, I know we're 2 minutes past. I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate everybody coming and joining our webinar. I know it's hard taking an hour out of your day. Like I said, we have our ITSM webinar in an hour, which is really exciting. I'll be there. Wade, he's great. He's going to be leading it. Look forward to seeing some of you guys there. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with me via email or connect with me on LinkedIn. And really quick, we have a winner. We have a winner of our giveaway. I hope he stuck around. We only have 8 participants left, but if not, Charles Myers, you won our giveaway, which is a MagCube Pro. So this will charge your phone for I think you get 3 hours of actual charge time. So probably like 2 full charges out of this. So congratulations. We'll follow up with you after and get it sent out to you. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for attending. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope it was a benefit to y'all. So thanks so much. And if you have any questions, like I said, just feel free to follow up.